be good business owners and do the right thing and build assets and reward your people and have plans and have your advisors in place. Like, you do that early on and it's going to pay off.
Welcome to Builders, Budgets, and Beers. I'm Reece Barnes, and I started this podcast to have real conversations about money in the building industry, the wins, the mistakes, and everything in between. I believe builders deserve to feel confident about their finances, and that starts by hearing from others who've been through it too. This industry can be slow to change, but the right stories and the right tools can make profitability feel possible. Let's get into it. All right, Johnny, mics are hot. We're rolling.
All right.
We're here.
How are we doing? Hey, I got one question before we start. Where do the beers come involved in these things? Because do we talk about beers at all?
Okay, I love beer. I love beer, and it's actually
that's how we
honestly.
met,
I just need to get like a case and stick it in the fridge here at the office. But it's honestly just logistics. I just never think to have them, and we started this whole thing out with builders, budgets, and beers, and we did like the first 3 episodes, and like the first 3 guests we have didn't drink. So then it was like, shit, like what do we do? And now here we are, and it's just kind of fallen off. But
we'll share beers.
We can always do beers later. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, beautiful. Well, let's kick this thing off as we do, and give the audience who you are, where you're located, what you do, just some of the basics.
Sure. So John Steiger, my firm's Wealth Planning Resources. We're located in Waltham, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. I work with clients locally, but we do have clients kind of around the country. So my firm, I started back in 1993. So I've been at this thing 33 years as of this month.
Awesome.
And the basis of the practice, we're financial planners, advisors. But pretty early on in my career, I honed in on working with business owners, helping them finding solutions to save on taxes, build up retirement outside or assets outside their companies, have them think about their key employees, get their house in order. And so there was a lot of opportunity there. We grew up in a family business out in Western Mass that lasted for over 100 years. And my father was a CFO. They sold it in 1994 to their big department stores, and they sold it to a big conglomerate department store. And he said to me pretty early on, he said, go talk to business, make sure they're saving their money, protecting their business, think about rainy days and how they're eventually going to get out of it. Because it's what you think is going to happen doesn't always happen. And we were kind of the classic case. They came out fine, but they could have done a lot more planning early on. And he said that.
Totally.
So anyway, so that's what we do. We work with companies on their 401k plans, and then all this kind of personal planning and business owner planning.
Totally.
So, and I have a team of 5 or 6 people that have been with me for a while.
That's awesome. So. That's beautiful. And so you found quite a little niche. You found some success working with contractors. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So, gosh, it's got to be 20 years ago. I just was kind of out there doing my thing, meeting business owners, getting connected, and met, a really influential landscape architect who introduced me to landscape construction companies, and then that morphed into working with builders. We had a really nice kind of seminar to help people figure out how to exit and protect their business. And I approached Builders Association that's local here, that's part of the National Association of Builders. And they, welcomed me to do an education. I got really involved with them. And it was just kind of a little bit, it was a sort of a niche that I fell into, but really enjoyed the people I was working with. Kind of spoke the same language and, hardworking people. And it just, just blossomed into a kind of a niche.
Totally.
So, continue to work
100%. So and when did this start? Did you say it was about 20 years ago when you were like?
Yeah, it's probably 20 years ago, maybe more, where I kind of made that made my home is my kind of niche
Yeah. Okay,
market.
great. So
Yeah, probably like, a lot. So before '08, I
yeah,
know
yeah.
that. It
Dude,
was,
okay, so what was that like?
oh, it was insane. I mean, it was just sort of, I mean, not only the markets were going crazy, but that whole kind of discretionary income to build homes, remodeling just kind of went
Yeah,
away. And it was really, really hard time. And, a lot of companies didn't make it
totally.
through it. And those that did blossomed, but it was wild. It was a scary time. And it took years for everything to come
Totally.
back.
Totally. Well, and
So
it's
yeah,
always a
yeah. Hopefully we never go through one again in my
yeah,
lifetime. So
God willing. But
yeah,
no, I think that's great. And the reason I asked, because like the reason I wanted to have you on the podcast was, I mean, that the conversation of transitioning business owners, right, is very much
yeah,
at the forefront of contractors today, right?
yeah,
I should have
absolutely.
the
Yeah,
stat pulled up. I could probably pull it, but there's like some insane percentage of business owners in construction are over the age of 55, and they're going to be retiring in like the next 10 years,
yeah.
right?
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. And I would tell you in the architect design, it's probably
right,
even more. That's part of that kind of industry that is has a huge need as
totally.
well,
So
for
like when
sure.
you think about that, it's like, okay, we've got all of these business owners that have made
Yeah,
incredible livings doing what they love, which is
yeah,
building, being contractors, right?
yeah.
Helping their communities,
Right.
growing their businesses, right? Now they're looking at this, and they're looking at business a little bit differently, right? It's like usually it's like the first, 10, 20, 30 years of their career, they're like grow, grow, grow.
Right.
They go through all of these different economic climates with like recessions and like these huge
Yep.
booms after COVID and all these scale things. But now
Yep.
they're starting to look at it like, okay, like I'm not going to be able to do this forever. Like I'm looking at a
Right.
labor shortage, right? People aren't flooding
Right.
into this industry. Like,
No. Yeah.
what do I do
Absolutely.
to flip my business, right? So I think like
Yeah.
we can talk about that a little bit, but generally, like I want to hear what your take is, just with nearly 20 years of working with contractors. Like, what are some of the biggest red flags that you see contractors doing that they could like easily circumnavigate with just some healthy wealth management and planning in their businesses?
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's lots of reasons why I think a owner of a contractor business, and then we're talking about businesses that are kind of like that 2 to 25, right? They have a good solid business. They got a good bunch of employees, but they're not these massive big builders that could get bought by another
Right.
huge builder, right? That's not what we're talking about. Because that, by the way, there's lots of decisions to made around that type of business, but we're talking about these kind of profitable remodeler
Yep.
builder types. Um, and the starting is they just kind of don't don't know kind of their financial house, to be
Yeah.
honest. They don't have that income plan. How am I going to get out? Have I saved enough? And maybe it's not on their forefront, but it's back of
Yeah.
their mind that they're sitting there going, well, where's my income going to come from? Can I just shut the doors? I love what I do. What else am I
Hmm.
going to do? And I think that's part of it too. It's like they just don't have that next stage of life. Maybe they don't have a lot of hobbies, and they're just kind of like, well, what am I going to do if I'm not
Right.
doing this? But I think it's understand their personal financial situation. The other thing too, I think it's who's going to take over. So let's assume a majority of these are going to be transitioned
Hmm.
internally. Maybe there's a strategic merger with another local firm, but I would say a majority of them are it's internal, or it's a family
Totally.
member or a key employee or group employees, and it's identifying it. And I think when bringing in kind of key people, are they grooming them to be owners and think like owners? Are they trained to do business development, trained to manage, trained to be a future owner? And it's not, I'm kind of making a blanket statement. A lot of them have thought about that and are thinking about that. But I think like those two major things, like certainly if you're going to try to get out in 2 years, that's a harder thing to do. But if you're kind of like at a 10-year run, or maybe 7 years, is to really think about like, all right, how am I grooming the next generation of owners and finding the next generation
Yeah.
of owners, teaching them everything that I need to do, right? And you've had other podcasts I've listened to that talk about that. Like they talk about like kind of those key people that you have to keep in the business and teach them the business, and then getting their own personal house in order. And I do meet a lot of builders that have done some planning, but not in the relation of their eventual exit, right? And how you kind of set yourself up so that you can easily exit. And there are lots of stories of contractors who make that transition to key employees and rely 100% on the future cash flows of that business to buy them out. That's kind of like, I would say, a recipe for disaster, but can be a struggle, you know. And if the next generation isn't bringing enough business and they're paying the old owner off and it's too high of a valuation, it just doesn't set that future generation up to be successful. So it's, you know, that's where that kind of building assets outside. I know a lot of them have real estate holdings and other sources of income, and you just have to kind of get that stuff in order so you can easily exit without putting a huge strain on.
That's beautiful. So. And there's a lot to unpack there. So like the two primary things is like, from a business owner standpoint that owns a construction company doing 2 to 25 million, call it, is like, first, like have your financial house in order, right? And then that breaks down into the other buckets of like, have assets outside of the business, right? A part of that is like actually knowing what the business is generating, know what that's going to be valued at, right? But then also that's where it kind of splits into the second is like start grooming the next generation of people that you're going to want to exit this thing to. And then that comes into like skill development, right? Like you've identified them as individuals. I think, why is that important? Why did you identify them? What skills do they have? What do they need developed? But then I think another one that I'm interested in, and frankly, I want kind of like tacticalness on all those threads. But the third piece is like, you hear it time and time again is, let's say you stand up a $10 million for simple math construction company, right? Do you know the valuation on like what a $10 million construction company should be? Like what the multiple would be?
So a lot of them comes down to EBITDA, right? What's your EBITDA? And a recurring revenue business that we see landscape companies that landscape with service contracts have done quite well. It's a lot of roll-ups, and there's continued to been roll-ups with that. There's one going
roll-up being private equity right now. Right?
Private equity, it's there because it's service contracts, right? Those are typically you're seeing 4 times EBITDA, maybe more. Depending on how profitable it is. If you don't have that recurring revenue, you may only be 1 time to 2 times EBITDA, maybe, right? So it's not like, it just depends on your pipeline. It depends on like what a lot of these more high-end builders doing, the building maintenance companies along with them that we have maintenance contracts. I think that's for the high-end luxury home builder, that is the future.
Totally agree.
For future buyout, right? That is the key thing, is that just recurring revenue. Know it's there. I mean, I think it's a lower number than you.
Well, and I would agree with like the service, like obviously like the service side, the service, and just for the listeners, not to like be like dumb this down too much, but the service is like the recurring side. Like quite literally, think about like when you're saying landscapers, right? Like this is like, there's obviously other applications of this, but think of like someone who mows yards, right? You get a client, you get them on a recurring schedule to mow the yard once every week, every 2 weeks, whatever it is, right? And then you build that client base, and then that's recurring revenue. Every 2 weeks, you know what's going to be coming in. It's repeatable, it's forecastable. That's where you get that bigger valuation. Right. But then when we're starting to talk about like, even in like the home building side or the high end luxury, like the remodeling and the home building side, like these people that are building $3, $4, $5, $10 million homes, they don't want to stay on top of keeping like air filters changed and soft or water softeners, if that's even a thing in the East Coast. I know it is in the Midwest. Right. But the point is like maintaining the home, right? It's like, that's repeatable. No question. I know every month I'm going to go out and do something, or every quarter I'm going to go out and do something. You get them on that contract.
Key is to make it profitable, but that's
exactly. Big, So like, I think it's more so like for the listener's standpoint is think about your business and the recurring revenue potential that you have in what you're providing. Because to your point, John, is like, it's extremely popular right now for this home services side, but there are so many other ways to do this and ways to think about revenue and service that you provide, and how do you bill for it, and how can you add that as value to your customer base.
Yeah.
But to bring this all back full circle, the reason I was asking is because the nightmare story is when I've spent 30, 40 years building a construction company and I've identified the people that I want to pass it over to. And now we get to
Yep.
the ledge and we start pushing people over it to that acquisition, right? They don't have the capital to do it, right? Or we're talking about terms.
A lot of them don't. Right. And you're relying on cash flow of
Right.
business. And maybe they thought way ahead and they created a sinking fund, or that individual's been groomed over the years and, they've paid them bonus to say, save this for future buy. But a lot of times it is just pure cash flow. I mean, you can use, we don't go down this rabbit hole, but people go
Yeah.
ESOP and some of these other tools that you can use, but that doesn't solve the problem of, that's still a cash flow solution, right? You have to have the business growing, producing income to buy
Yeah.
you out. And yeah, that's typically how it's
So
done.
with that point is like, and that's what I want to touch on with like the grooming concept, because I think it's like you can set anyone up with the skill, right? Maybe not anybody,
Right.
but you get what I'm saying, right? It's like you've got the skill, they like
Yeah.
you're comfortable that they would be able to take the business over, be able to run it and grow it and do like well by the business and the community.
Yeah.
But what are some of the
Right.
pieces that you mentioned, like a sync fund, and you mentioned like paying
Yeah.
them bonuses to say like, hey, like hold
Yep.
on to this because this is the strategic plan. What do you
Yep.
see tactically, or that you would just like generally advise people to consider as they're on this path to acquisition? Like what is
Well, I mean, it starts with the owner, right? The owner has control of that revenue, how they pay their people, how they bonus their people, how they retain their people, right? And I say the owner, it's up to the owner first to get, again, what we talked about in the beginning, get your house in order. So was you earn profits in the business? Are you just rolling it back in, or are you doing something else with it? Make your business secure, but are you doing something else with it? Buying the building you're in, or buying another piece of real estate that's going to generate income. Maximizing all the retirement plans available that the IRS gives us. It's a gift to put money into these plans, and a lot of money. So you do that over long enough, that can add up to heavy 7 digits. If you put the time in, that's your asset as well. What you don't want to do is say, oh, I'm going to go buy a piece of another, I need to take a tax reduction, I'm going to buy another piece of equipment just to get that tax reduction. Like that doesn't build wealth for you, right? So it's thinking about, okay, I need to protect myself, my family, and my business by doing these things on the outside while keeping my business healthy. So then I get to the point where it's like, okay, now I want to exit. I got these great people I've groomed. They've got the management skills. They have the business development skills, hopefully, because that is key. We can touch more on that. But so I see that as a big hole. But anyway, now, okay, guys or ladies, let's figure out, what this thing is worth, what this thing generates. We'll start you with a certain amount of shares, right? Or a certain amount of ownership. And maybe they form another corporation, and we say that often, but you're starting with this kind of engine that's going to produce, and then you're going to pay me over a number of years. And, there's a lot of discussion about how long that should last and whatever it might be. But if you're relying 100% on that, that's a lot of pressure if you have these other accounts. What I was saying about sinking funds and other things, yeah, you can help those key employees with bonus structure and help them build their wealth outside to say, hey, you're going to turn around and buy me out. That takes a lot of planning and a lot of foresight to do that. It takes a lot of discipline of that one person. So that conversation, what I was just saying about how to kind of make this whole thing happen, I kind of see that. Build out wealth outside. Don't rely 100% on your company. Make sure you have the key people inside that can do business development and can manage this thing so it can pay you out over time. But for a big windfall, that's a harder thing to kind of put together for a, $15 million a year, $20 million contractor. I think that's a harder thing to do for a big windfall. You'd have to somebody take on a lot of debt, and are they willing to do that, or have their own money?
Totally. Well, and I think so 2 questions is first, like timeline. Okay. Like how long should contractors, builders be thinking? Like, how much runway should they give themselves? Should it be
I think 10
10
years. It's like 10 years is kind of like ideal. When, if you read that E-Myth book, right? If you read that book, it tells you from day one, you should be thinking about your exit. Any venture capital PE firms always like, buy a business, how are we going to get out, right? So, but, that doesn't always happen. It's harder to do because you're just building this thing, hopefully from the ground up. But 10 years is kind of key. Now, can it be done sooner? Sure. Especially if you have the assets outside. But that aside, it takes a while to groom people, right? And find the right person. And so 10 years is ideal, but certainly can be done in 5. I've seen it a shorter time frame, different circumstances, but by the book, best practice, 10 years.
Give it a decade.
Yeah, give it a decade. Then you got time to accumulate if you need to catch up on that. Build assets outside, groom your people, make sure they're right, get the right coaching in place for sales development, management, communication issues that may come up, all of it.
Totally.
And so that's kind of
totally. Well, and so even like on the second side is like, I'm thinking even from like the people that are getting groomed for this conversation, right? Because like they're like, even it's kind of even like the inverse now. I feel like the younger generation, like they understand to like really get to true wealth is to own the business or a part of the business. So it's like now you start to get people coming into the business wanting that as a part of offers. Right. And I had, there's a buddy of mine runs a contracting company, a roofing contracting company down in Arizona. And he had a situation like this to where he was like, he had a guy comes in barking for like equity in the business, and he like rolled out his EBITDA and he was like, all right, like, where's my check? Like, if you want to come to this party and you want to bark for equity in the company, like pay me. Right. Like, but then the guy didn't have any of the capital. So it's like, how do you get it? As like, let's say again, just for simple math, like a $10 million company, how much would someone need to come to the table with to successfully run that play to buy out the company?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I think it'd be hard. I'm just thinking about the contract side where, right? That if someone came in and said, I want to be an owner from day one, buy into this thing. They're not really built that way, right? Because it's such a hands-on business.
Yeah.
I do think though, to your point, and I'm working with this architecture design firm who straight out was like, okay, we want to bring people in. We want to have them under ownership.
Yep.
And so they created a phantom plan, right?
Okay.
And so you can create these kind of phantom ownerships. And again, we're not getting the weeds of it, but you can create these phantom ownership plans so they participate on the upside and they know what it feels like to be an owner, and you get them involved so that over time that owners exit, new owners come in, they've already had a taste of it, how it all works.
Yeah.
So yeah, to your point, I think younger people get that. They want to be a part of it. I think I certainly wouldn't advise one of my clients to take someone new and give them actual ownership. If you want to build an ownership plan through a phantom plan, it's so much better. So yeah.
Can you dig in on the phantom plan a little bit?
Yeah.
So like just generally like phantom, I imagine this is just like you're emulating the experience. Like you cut them in at a degree, but they don't get the full.
Yeah. So you just basically create a plan that is what we call synthetic stock, right? It looks and smells like stock in the sense that I'll make more if the company does well and I get a certain part of the profit, but I don't have any voting rights.
Makes sense.
You can make it up whatever you want. Like if it's sold, maybe I get a piece of it. I forfeit if I leave. I can't vote. I don't have liabilities. It's just a pretty slick way to give that ownership without actually giving ownership.
I mean, that's like directly in line with like the second arm, or rather the first arm of this, right? Which is like grooming your employees. Like, I think that should just be like the default, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, certainly they have to show ownership on entrepreneurial qualities, right?
Of course. Yeah.
And they have to think like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a really kind of progressive way to run your business with future in mind, future ownership in mind. as opposed to just like, oh, I'm going to start with this thing, hire a bunch of employees, and maybe it'll be an owner or not. Well, if you can get them involved in it pretty early on and talking like and thinking like an owner, then I think your future as far as exit goes is going to be a lot easier.
Totally. Yeah. And this isn't just to say that like you run these like concepts or plans just totally willy-nilly. Like it all needs to be like well thought out. And we can touch into this. You mentioned that you want to talk about business development, but it's like where do you see like the biggest opportunity for business owners to start grooming their employees? Let's talk about business development. Like, why do you say that that's an area that's like,
well, I mean, I think it's, where does the business come from?
Yeah.
Right. And I may be a great worker, great project manager, and know the business. I'm a craftsman. I can manage people. But if I'm not willing to go have coffee with an local architect or developer or, a bunch of country club people that have the discretionary, I'm sorry to pick on country club people. I belong to country club. But, like hang out with people that have means, right? You got to hang out with people that have means. I have this one builder. He tries to meet as many private equity people as possible.
Yeah.
That's what he does. And guess
what? Beautiful.
He's getting tons of business from wealthy people because he's built a relationship with private equity and he's out shaking hands. So like some people are totally uncomfortable with that. And I get that. And it doesn't mean you have to have that skill to be an owner, right? You may have someone that's really good at managing.
That's a big part.
But someone's got to be the rainmaker at some level, right?
Yeah.
And, the reason why a lot of business owners, and we'll just call them builders, build these great businesses because they can do everything. They can do business. Yeah. They know how to build. They know how to manage. They know how to get business. They just kind of know how to do everything, right? So
totally.
And you can't always replace yourself with one person.
Yeah.
So you have to find a group of people, but understand business development's got to be a huge, huge piece of it.
Totally.
Right?
And I think that's even the part that like having your financial house in order is like so many, I'm not even going to say contractors, just people that want to be in the business world or want to be entrepreneurial fail to forget. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're building a house or if you're building a piece of software.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're building a product that you're selling to the market. And if you don't know how to generate interest and revenue to that product, then it's not really a business. Right.
Yeah. And maybe you have this amazing marketing machine and all, but I don't know. At the end of the day, I think specifically in the high-end remodel and luxury home building, they're, as much as they're buying the craftsman, they're out hiring the people, right? You have an intimate relationship with them over a period of time, and you got to trust them, have them hear you. So you have to have those, you got to have those skills, and if you do that really well, they're going to refer you to other people. So I think you can't discount that training and that, that skill development among the next generation. I think it's huge. So
totally. Yeah. Okay. So that's, I think like, yes, like the business development side, and that kind of like even goes into like the EBITDA, right? And the valuations of these things. But I think even more so, like talking about the asset building outside of the business.
Yeah.
I really want to hear some like just like the tactical things that you would want to share with this audience.
Sure.
Right. Of like where they should be looking and what they should be considering, because it is so common. I literally just did a podcast a few weeks ago with a young couple. They're down in Louisiana, awesome people. And they're in the mode right now to where everything goes back into the business.
Yeah.
Right. And like, that's just like, that's a part of their journey and they're in that path, the early days, like it makes a ton of sense. But then I think people can kind of fall into that trap. Right. And it's just the classic, you nailed it on the head of like, oh, like we got to get rid of some profits so we don't have a bunch of taxes. Like go buy a truck. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm going to go buy this equipment because if I buy this equipment, then I don't have to rent it or I can rent it back for myself. Right. All this stuff. Where are some like maybe not as direct contractor buckets, as I'll call them, like buying the truck or buying the machinery?
I'm a wealth management 401k person, right? But if I had a CPA next to me that really understood, they would say the same thing, is that the IRS gives us these qualified retirement plans that we can use in our business The maximum amounts are huge.
Yeah.
The tax incentives are huge. And in fact, I'm always surprised when I meet builders that don't have a 401k plan. Well, if you have a business, start a business in the state of California or state of Connecticut, you're required to have a qualified retirement plan in your business or some sort of payroll deduction savings plan. That was part of the Secure Act 2.0.
Okay.
And by the way, if you don't have a retirement plan and you want to start one, well, the government will basically give you tax credits to cover your entire cost for like 3 years. So it's pretty significant. Like, why wouldn't you do that? No, you got to have cash flow, but it's like almost seems too simple. But it's really simple. And there's lots of programs to use to help you do that. But like, I have direct examples. I worked with companies for 20 years. They started these things. They funded it like crazy. They paid their people well. They did everything they want to do to grow their business. And meanwhile, they're leaving their business with heavy 7-digit accounts by just grinding away every single year, make it a priority, make it a bill, don't stop. Go back to 08, I had contractors that were doing okay. And they funded it during the 08 crisis. And that money tripled, doubled, quadrupled over and over and over again because they bought it on the low part of the market.
Yeah.
So that's a really, really simple way. I mean, you gotta have cash flow to do it, but like,
what's the barrier to entry? Like, how much cash flow do you actually need?
It's not a lot, right? It's 401k, what, 24 grand a year plus a catch job, a match. I mean, you can get in just pretty sophisticated plans, putting a couple $100,000, but our contractors aren't doing that. They have basic 401k plans with matches to reward their people, and they are committed to it and putting maybe a profit sharing plan on top of it. I mean, that's just one piece of what you can do, right? And and a lot of our contractors are buying buildings along with it, right? They're doing a bunch of different things, but not all of them. A lot of them are just using the retirement plan as a means to just build it up. Just paying attention to it as part of, it's a bill, and you make it a bill. No,
I think that's the takeaway is like, I think like making it a bill, right, is just essentially like making it a priority, right? And like, it's got to be important to you.
And I would also say from a compensation standpoint, again, this is me talking, obviously biased because we do this type of work, but a CPA would say the same thing, I think, and that is you can reward your employees through these plans and nobody's paying taxes and you're saving on workman comp premiums and it's all and it builds longevity, right? And again, I have this one builder who's been so committed to it for, I don't know how many years now. They're just like, we take care of our people and this is how we take care of them. Right? And if you don't know a lot about it, it's intimidating, but once you kind of figure it out, it's a super easy way to build assets, take care of people, save on taxes. I don't know. That seems like pretty basic planning to me. That's
what I'm saying. And that's where I just think that like, this is like just generally good practice. Now, what would you say keeps people from doing this? I guess maybe let's take a step back. How many contractors, builders would you say do this? If you said like,
everybody, all I work with have them, but like,
of course,
we're able to kind of, because it's public information, I'm able to kind of look at builders in my area that I can see if they have a plan or not because it's public information. And when they don't, I'm like, I kind of scratch my head like, okay, what's going on there?
Right.
I don't know. I think it's kind of fear unknown, fear expense, don't want to be committed to it. And, frankly, some people don't have a lot of faith in the public markets. So that's another side of it, and that is what it is. I mean, I'm not here to convince people otherwise. It just is what it is.
But if you look at it on a short enough timeline, sure. Right. It's how do you look at the S&P over the last 20 years and say, that
I agree. I mean, listen, it seems simple enough to me, but then again, okay, if you don't want to go down that road, you have to find another way to build assets outside of your company. So that it's easier for you to exit and it's good for your future generation to buy. And also, we didn't get into this, but if you're going to sell it to a third party, right? You have to show profits. You have to show good cash flow. You have to we can't just be kind of reinvesting and showing nobody wants to pay taxes, right? So in order to be profitable, you have to pay taxes. So you have to, that's where you got to be if you want to sell it to a third party or a third party to come in and buy you. You have to have strong EBITDA numbers, good cash flow. So, yeah.
I heard this. In regards to taxes, I heard this piece of advice when I was young, and it just stuck with me. Right? I was like, when I say young, I was like young.
Yeah.
And someone was telling me it was like they were sitting down with their CPA and they were going over like all their taxes, and it was like a year where they're like, holy shit, this is like, we're gonna pay a lot in taxes.
Yeah.
And their tax advisor was like, you know what, like, if you're worried about paying taxes, you're worried about the wrong thing. You should be worried about making more money.
Right.
It's like you shouldn't be worried about how do I save more on taxes as much as you should be like, how do I make more money? What's your take on that?
I mean, I agree. I think like, you know, if you're paying more and more taxes every year, well, good for you. You're making more and more money. Right. That's just that's just part of the deal. But if you're not taking advantage of all the things you can do and you don't have a good tax person that's proactive with you, like taking advantage of these plans or other sort of deductions as a contractor or as a real estate owner, you're kind of missing the boat too, right? So you can be profitable and do all these techniques and you're still going to pay taxes, but maybe not as much. But I mean, I don't know. It's like, we all pay a lot of taxes. Hopefully we're paying taxes. We're making money. That's the whole idea.
Totally. Well, and this like that comment isn't certainly to be like negligent and like tax strategy, right? And like how to do this tactically and strategically, right? To avoid paying taxes. But it's like, dude, come on. Like you can't roll everything back into the business to avoid showing profit to avoid taxes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's about
some of the things you can do, like qualified plans, it's a tax deduction, but it's still considered profit. So if you were to have a third party come in and say, oh, they fund their retirement plan with $500,000 a year. Wow, that's fantastic. They have cash flow to do it. It's still be paying less taxes, but that makes the business very valuable when you do that. So
totally. One page, and you might not have a lot on this, but I'm curious to know if you do have insight on this. Talking about like having the financial side of the house taken care of, like we can talk about costs and income, right? And like making sure that you are showing profit, but where do you see builders like losing the most? Or like, what are like some, like if you're reviewing financial statements, right? And you're going over this with builders, like what are just some of the nightmares that you open up when you look at these businesses and you're just like, dude, these are botched financials, or do you?
I don't get too heavy into that. I see the accounts, but again, where I see it's, again, spending money on depreciating assets.
Period.
Because you got to get real profit. I mean, that's the very coming. Now, everybody's got to buy a new truck and new equipment. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. And that's good. Like stay ahead of maintenance and get good deals. But to do it just to do it,
crazy.
I don't know, right?
Yeah.
And also, I think like as you plan your exit, you do have to calculate how much of the business is funding your personal life. Like I own a business, like put my car through it, put my phone through it, put whatever I can to get those tax deductions to fund my personal life. That's within the IRS guidelines. You have to take that into account. When you leave, those go away, right? So how are you going to fund that? And, I'm sure future owners are going to be cool to help you out, but not forever. So, so like spending too much money on that stuff with that, like that doesn't, it's a tax deduction, but it doesn't build wealth. It doesn't build value per se. It's smart tax planning, but doesn't move the line up when it comes to net worth and value.
Totally. I love it. Okay. So John, this was great. I mean, obviously you know what you're talking about. How do the listeners find you?
Yeah, pretty easy. So our website is wprplanning.com.
What does WPR stand for?
Wealth Planning Resources.
WPR.
WPR Planning
Okay.
And then my email is john@wprplanning.com.
Okay.
So both ways. If you go to our website, you can,
Well,
get in touch with us that way, but email is always good.
and you guys
And
are putting a lot into social media too, aren't you?
yeah, social media for sure. Like wealth planning resources, our LinkedIn account, my LinkedIn. We're always pumping out information. We have a great new person doing our social media on Instagram, wealth planning resources, and it's varied information, right? It's about business owner stuff, personal stuff, keep it practical. We push out a newsletter once a month to business owners, individuals, and it's curated for that demographic or that perfect situation. It's not a hodgepodge of financial stuff. It's very specific. We hold webinars. So we stay pretty active and educate. It's like there's a ton of financial information on there. It's out there, and it's frankly very confusing. Our industry has done a good job of getting it out there. Poor job of confusing everybody.
Yeah.
So we just try to simplify as much as possible.
Totally.
And so yeah.
I think just like generally after this conversation, like I think like to your point of like maybe doing a poor job at confusing or an exceptional job at confusing, right? I don't know how you split that. But the point is this episode is broken down to be super simple. I mean, I don't think this doesn't sound like rocket science. It just seems like making good decisions.
Yeah, it's making a decision. And it's like
this doesn't sound crazy.
We all fight inertia, right?
Yeah.
That's human behavior. I'll get to it later. I'm doing my thing every single day.
Yeah.
And I need to carve out time to actually do this work. And I think that's the hardest thing for people to do anything, whether it's going to the gym or eating good foods or, going to church or whatever you do.
Yeah.
Planning is nerve-wracking and scary. And how do I get it started? And I would say that's, that's the biggest, I think, battle for everybody is just spending the time to do it. And you don't want to do it when it's panic time, right? Oh my gosh, I want to be out in 2 years. What do I do? It's like, you just got to carve out a little bit of time.
Give it 10 years.
Yeah. Give it 10 years. And that's the thing is we try to spoon feed our clients and just one thing at a time, one solution at a time, make it easy as much as possible and just spoon feed it because it is a lot.
Yeah.
And you got to have a good team, right? You got to have a good inside control system. You got to have a good CPA, wealth advisor, attorney. Everybody's talking to each other, working as a team. Yeah. We bring in, we get into exit situations. So like, wow, okay, it's clear that this is the way you should exit, but you can't communicate or there's some sort of issue with management.
Yeah.
So let's bring in someone that can counsel you on how to build systems or get through these conflicts so that you can move forward.
Yeah.
And I've been in situations where I kind of had to back out because we had to have a coach to come in, lack of a better word, a consultant to come in to like solve some internal issues so they can move forward.
Yeah.
And those that don't do that never get to the end line, right? You got to solve those internal issues. So
totally,
that's a big part of it.
I mean, then this is just like the similarities just across the board with talking about, exiting your company, wealth management planning, and building a repeatable motion in the business, right? Yeah. And it's like, it's all about alignment. And like, you can't stop and think as a business owner that like, okay, I've got my team here and they're working and they're chugging along and it's done. It's like, okay, well, that's like step one, right? Like that should be, right. That's like, we should be focusing on how do we repeatably and reliably net the most high value revenue as we can year over year over year. And then once that's a machine and you run that and you grow with that and you mold that for 20, 30 years, the next 10 is going to be, how do I get the right people in place to start talking about bringing this in? I've got this machine that's moving over here. Yeah. Now I've got this machine that I'm building and working over here to start talking about exits and making smart decisions and getting my team in the right positions in place. So I think it's great.
Right. Yeah. And I think, we talked a lot of just kind of upstart, newer companies, and it's just like getting the things in place, not really talking about exit. Like, let's just be good business owners and do the right thing and build assets and reward your people and have plans and have your advisors in place. Like, you do that early on and it's going to pay off long run. So this isn't just for people that 10 years. It's people that are just starting out, maybe, and we work with a lot of those we love them, like the startup contractors. It's the best, they're hungry for information, and yeah, it's rewarding for sure.
Totally. Well, I love it. I appreciate it, John. Thank you so much for coming on the pod.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. We'll be in touch, and we'll have to get beers on this. Are you a Foley's guy?
Do you know JJ Foley's? No, yeah. I want to go there.
What do you mean you want to go there?
I want to go there.
Right there.
I'm right there, but we live close to each other. So
we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. My wife and I love Foley's. We'll go. We'll go. Okay. We'll get the gals together. We'll go get some pints. We'll go have some beers at Foley's. I cannot believe you haven't been to Foley's.
I know. Everybody talks about it. I drive by it only times a day. So,
dude, it's awesome. And I will say the last piece here. So Foley's is blown up, and like literally since we moved here, because we moved in September, right?
Yeah.
And then we found this place. We were like kind of like trying to find our watering hole or whatever.
Yeah.
And we go to Foley's and we're like, oh god, this place rocks. And then like all of a sudden they blow up on Instagram. They get deemed like the best pint of Guinness in America by this Irish influencer. Yeah. And now it's absolutely bananas. So you kind of got to like know when to go. But it's owned by the Foleys. Like they're all Foleys. Like Mike, and then Mike and Mike's son is Mike. And then they've got like their brother Jeremiah and like their brother Tony works there. They're all Foleys. They're great. Wow. Absolute class act.
In the most unsuspecting part of Boston, I would say as well.
Yeah, exactly. The South End. Foley's South End. Absolute class act over there. Okay, cool. Well, we'll get beers lined up. I appreciate you. I'll let you get back to your day.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Cool. See you, John.